Rogers TV presents the new series, Left and Right. Join host Michael A. Charbon as he moderates this weekly series.
Hey, everybody.
Featuring compelling guests on social issues, evolving moral values, and the geopolitical matters that affect us all. Left and Right is stimulating, candid television that challenges your point of view. Watch Left and Right with Michael A. Charbon, Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. on Rogers TV.
When unemployment rises and times get tough, people blame the government and then immigration. In most modern societies, civil liberties are things we take for granted, from freedom of religion, freedom of expression, to the Americans' freedom to bear arms. One of the most unstable regions in the world is the Middle East. Palestine, Gaza, the West Bank, and Israel all represent the most volatile flashpoints. An eye for an eye. Live by the sword and die by the sword. If you plot and plan to kill another human, you then should receive the same fate, death, as justice for your crime. But what if the measurement of guilt is based on a legal system that convicts based on beyond a reasonable doubt? In Canada, 47,000 deaths are attributed to drug abuse annually. 42% of Ontario students surveyed have used illicit drugs in the last year. First of all, I'd like to introduce Mr. Fred Hussey. Fred Hussey is a Chief Operating Officer for Ontario Health Clinics. Also joining us today, Mr. Calvin Barry, former Chief Crown Prosecuting Attorney and now heads a flourishing defense attorney business in Toronto. Adding to our panel here, the esteemed Judge Morton. Judge Morton was a provincial court judge for almost 18 years and is going to lend some great insight into our discussion today. Dr. Mustafa Barghouti, who is a member of the Palestinian Legislative Council. He's also the ex-presidential candidate for Palestine. From Ottawa on the phone is Ms. Natalie DeRosier. Natalie is the General Counsel for the Canadian Civil Liberties Association. Now, Mr. Jackson Dawhart, who is a contributor to the Holy Post blog, which is part of the National Post website. Ms. Isolde Spies. Isolde is an exercise physiologist. Mr. Jagmeet Singh, who is the NDP Justice Critic for Bramalea Gore Malton. Dr. Bernstein. Dr. Bernstein is a physician and is head of the Dr. Bernstein Clinics. With all due respect, the simple solution is also that Hamas and terrorist organizations who state to the world in print and to their people that Israel should be wiped off the map. How can you start a basis of discussion when you already have one side saying that they should not exist, they should not be there, they should be eliminated and should be wiped off? How can we start a discussion when we're already facing that as a premise? There is a movement in the United States, or an organization called the Innocence Project, where they have, and rightly so, they have exonerated like 321 people, I believe is the number, that were on death row. So that was basically due to DNA evidence. Beyond a reasonable doubt. That is not the basis by which that you would issue the death penalty. I'm talking about the death penalty in something like Luca Magnotta, where on the internet you see him decapitating someone, or you see him doing that, or Paul Bernardo, where you see irrevocable evidence on videotape that shows that that person did that. There should be no right of appeal in that scenario, or if there is a right of appeal, there should be something short and sweet. With what we've seen in the world right now and what we're seeing in violence, I mean, recently this summer we saw the shootings at the Eaton Center. We can go on and on about people that you can actually see undeniable evidence that they created this crime and they did kill someone, that there has to be, or I'm asking, that there should be something done to say, you know what, a death penalty is a right thing to do. Am I still wrong?
Are you making an argument about deterrence, or are you making an argument about there being an inherent justice to capital punishment?
You know, it's you can tell he's an intellectual young gentleman because he's asking me to go down a rabbit hole. I'm not talking about the term. No, because that is a rabbit hole.
It's a point of clarification.
Yeah, but once you start backing down, it's kind of like going into a Venus flytrap. Smells good, feels good, can't get out, I'm done. I'm not going to talk about deterrence. What I'm talking about, it's partially to do with an eye for an eye. You know what? Why should I spend $113,000 a year to house somebody that I know did something wrong, that killed somebody? The same should be done to them. You have no right to breathe the same air here, and I don't care who or what you are. If it's undeniable with DNA evidence, That is the bar by which it should be drawn. I don't see as many kids out playing ball hockey on the roads as I did when I was, because the social media has taken over. What do you see in your practice now, and what do you feel is an appropriate time frame that children should really be active? But they're afraid of traffic. People, I mean, I know very well on Hastings Street in Vancouver, which was. There is a clinic there that supplies needles and supplies drugs, and the reason that it does that because it keeps everybody together, keeps everybody safe. There are two trains of thought. Don't give them drugs. You're purporting it, but you look at Portugal where everything is legal. You look at Switzerland where they've given that. A methadone clinic allows people to get help, and the purpose is to get them on a path of rehabilitation.
Yes.
How hard is it to communicate that message to a community? And finally, our objective in this program was not to in any way offend anyone or any group. Our aim was to discuss topics and raise issues that are currently being questioned and debated as our evolving social and moral values are vented, discussed, and challenged, of course, by many. And finally, it sincerely is my hope that this program has brought to light some of the shocking issues that we are faced with in today's ongoing battle against drug abuse. Also, on a positive note, we acknowledge those individuals and organizations who are making a difference in the rehabilitation and the fight. We all must remain vigilant. I'd like to thank our guests for being with us today and expressing their points of view. Please leave your comments and suggestions at leftandrightmac@gmail.com. You can also comment, and please like us on Facebook. For Left and Right, I'm Michael A. Charbon. Thank you for watching. Good morning, everybody. My name is Michael A. Charbon, and I'll be here in the studios of Rogers Television on Wolfdale, bringing you a studio coverage of our Remembrance Day services, where we will be featuring the Streetsville Parade and the presentation. Our second member of our broadcast crew is Miss Rada Taylor, who is in Streetsville with us, and she'll be bringing us reports and giving us a scene set and giving us a feeling of what's happening in Streetsville. Good morning, Rada. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Wonderful, thank you. A beautiful day for our Remembrance Day service. I can see the sun. I can see that we have people attending. Give us a little bit of a scene set and what's happening in Streetsville this morning. Remembrance Day is also known as Poppy Day or Armistice Day. It's a memorial day observed in many of the Commonwealth countries since the end of World War I. And it's to remember the members of the armed forces, soldiers, sailors, and airmen who have died in the line of duty. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary
Armed
them,
Forces of Canada,
nor the years condemned. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. It's interesting how Canada, unfortunately, has to honor its dead in a all too familiar ritual. From the ramp ceremonies with flag-draped coffins at Kandahar Airfield in Afghanistan, to a solemn procession, as they say, from Canadian Forces Base Trenton to Toronto. It's actually on a section of Highway 401 along which deceased soldiers are carried after the repatriation. And they renamed that part of the 401 the Highway of Heroes. And it is so wonderful to see people come out and celebrate on the bridges. We've seen the fire departments and police and just common people coming out and applauding as the hearses go by to downtown Toronto. It's been almost 3 years since the City of Brampton committed to help fund a new hospital. And now it's time to determine how to fund that commitment. Tune in to Rogers TV this Wednesday at 7 p.m. for exclusive live coverage of the Peel Memorial Hospital Town Hall meeting. And stay tuned afterwards for our live call-in show, where you can voice your opinions on proposed funding options. Have your say exclusively on Rogers TV, because local matters. And some spirited discussion at the town hall meeting. Just wanted to do a little bit of an overview now. Gail Miles was actually the chairperson. She is the budget chair of the committee. Gail Miles is a regional councillor. She spoke to the fact that they were going to have three guests who were going to speak. One, Mayor Fennell. The second, Dave McKeag, who was the CFO of the William Osler organization. And finally, Mo Lewis, who is the commissioner and treasurer of Brampton. We're going to go to our reporter on site, which is Rada Taylor, and she's got the mayor with her. Rada.
Yes. Mayor Fennell, can you give us an overview of what you think is going to be the decision of council?
I wouldn't even attempt to give you an overview of what the decision of council is going to be.
Let's go to our next caller. It's Lisa. Lisa, do you have a question for us?
Actually, I have a comment and a suggestion, but I think if there was like an awareness campaign that showed people how much they were paying, that there might be less abuse of the system.
So I agree with you, Lisa, but I got to ask you the question of the day. Of the three options, what would you select? One, pay up front, get it over with and done. Two, borrow, or three, a combination of the two?
Save any Brampton surplus and pay up front.
Well, that seems to be the consensus. I would say it was good stewardship on the part of the council to make that commitment. Does that answer your question, John?
That answers my question, but I have one final comment.
Sure.
I think it's very unfair that somebody who has a rental apartment in their house would not have to pay the $52 for that. That just is not fair, because those people who are in that rental apartment will be making use of this new hospital. That has got to be cleaned up.
Yeah, I think that's a point that came out of this, and we've had that in this discussion. And John, I thank you for bringing that up and for calling in. And I think that's something that, as a result of this, if that's one thing, I mean, we found out where the funding is delinquent from the province. We found out timing. But I think that point that John brings up again is the bellwether point that we've discussed.
Why do we have to start collecting the money before the foundation has been done?
I would think, Frank, that there have been some contracts signed and there are certain obligations that carry over. Again, I'm not a politician, thank God for that. I'm also not a lawyer, so I don't know. Daryl, can you shed some light on this?
Yeah, my understanding is this is a deal between the City of Brampton and William Osler Hospital to fund specifically this project. So,
to all the folks in the crew who are here today, thank you so much for volunteering and allowing a situation like a town hall meeting to take place, where we are so fortunate to live in a democratic society where we can voice our objections, our suggestions, and engage our politicians to defend their position as they, in their position, represent us in our best interests, and particularly the people of Brampton who so deserve a hospital. And I think that's, if there's one thing that we've established, that there will be a hospital. I'm Michael A. Charbon. Thank you very much for watching, and have a pleasant evening. But if they're stating that 1 in 5 people suffer with mental illness, I mean, this is a grave stat. I appreciate listening to the news because I want to know what's going on financially, politically,
well, it's good that you're so superior.
No, I'm not saying oh goodness, here we go. Well, Helen, the interesting thing is anybody can become a parent. You don't have to go to school for it. True. You don't have to be approved for it. Well, I think that's an excellent answer. I still wonder if she still feels guilty. And I'm not imposing. As a matter of fact, she's back on the line. Sarah, did I impose upon you? Did I ask you a question which was embarrassing? That is both your smoking your drapes. From our studios in Toronto, this is
The Political Curve.
I find it absolutely amazing. Here we are from a Canadian perspective looking at American politics and what's going on. And I look at this headline that says, fried rice. Susan Rice. Fried rice, Susan Rice. First of all, she's a UN ambassador. She's being hauled over the coals because 2 weeks after Benghazi, she goes on 4 or 5 political shows on Sunday morning, repeats some prepared text. We have to come to a point where it has to be that news is for news. And I think we've gotten away from that. If you look at the amount of times that certain things were spoken about in the news and brought up, reflective to what President Obama has done on the regular news media compared to what cable news has talked about, there's a huge divergence. And we, as outside observers, as Canadians, we have the CBC, the Canadian Broadcast Corporation. We have the CTV television network, which is Bell Media. And we have Global News, which is Shaw. Those are our three main news organizations. One is a Crown Corporation sponsored by our people, or the people of Canada. And the other two are independent. You can't really divide the other two. They're not as polarized, whereas in the United States, we could go on and on.
Well, again, you know, but then you have to look at some of the other differences in the society and even in the political system you mentioned earlier.
Here there was 2 weeks before the election, they're feeding her stuff that she reads. I think it is an unfortunate circumstance that she was held as the victim. She took the fall. She should really call out who it was. They changed this, they did this, because she knew differently,
Wow.
I would think.
Talk about conspiracy theory. Maybe in, you know, some monarchy that you've lived in the past, I don't know. But in the United States, there's an entire country. You know, that's so conservative.
I have a good idea. Let's go to China and borrow some more.
The
United States has no appetite for another war.
It's not.
No, the United States has got to regroup, hold back, save some money, and start cutting entitlements, because if you don't, the American dollar is going to go down, not based on the gold standard anymore. And, you know, the American dollar was the currency of the world, and it's teetering on not being that as we move forward. This is a cover-up. 2 weeks before the election.
It's a cover-up. Yeah. It's a conspiracy, folks.
Oh, goodness. You know, if you have opinions on this or you have questions, you can always get in touch with us.
Alex at politicalcurve.com.
Michael at politicalcurve.com.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
For politicalcurve.com, I'm Michael A. Charbon.
I'm Alex Wood.
Thanks for watching. Join us as together we travel the world, exploring picturesque destinations and experiencing tantalizing gourmet food. Welcome to Great Markets and Tastes. I'm your host, Michael A. Charbon. It's called the Fruit Belt, located between Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. This is Niagara on the Lake. Where on today's show, we're going to go to a market and look at some fine ripened fruit. We're going to go to a vineyard and experience some great wine tasting, and finally have a gastronomical experience by a regional expert chef. All this and more on Great Markets and Tastes, Niagara on the Lake. Welcome back. Well, here is a classic example of a fresh farmer's market in the Niagara region. You know, they call this slow food, not fast food. Slow food because it's slow ripened, so it's right from the farmer's field to your table. I see a white jacket here. I think this may be our chef, executive chef, Albert Weissman from the Queenston Heights restaurant. Albert, welcome.
Nice to meet you, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
So we're going to do a bunch of really cool hors d'oeuvres using our local produce.
Yep.
But first we got to do a little shopping.
Yeah, and we're in the right spot for that.
We are in the right spot. Unlike going to your grocery store, a farmer's market has genuine community feel, with a unique personal connection to the produce. No matter which farmer's market you go to, it feels like family.
Michael Charbon brings you Talk Local, an interactive, in-depth, and engaging talk show at the local level. Michael talks to guests and callers from all walks of life about issues right where you live. Talk Local, Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m.
Good evening, people, and welcome to another edition of Talk Local. I'm Michael Charbon. I'm your host for the next 2 hours. Our first hour, we're going to talk about tax time. Oh my goodness, that's right, tax time. And in hour 2, we're going to talk about tuition fee, the high cost of higher education. $1 billion, I love saying billions, of healthcare dollars are coming into the flow. You called out Don Cherry. That took a lot of chutzpah, as they say. That's a bit of a wishy-washy.
No, it's not wishy-washy.
It is a bit wishy-washy. I got 60, Stella, I got 16,000 in debt. How many people take their seatbelts off when they're driving in the plane? You better stop at that stop sign. You know that little stop sign there that says where people are going through? How many people blow that stop sign, Len? You know, I should have brought a cigarette and just lit it up.
And if you light up, I will charge you.
Yeah, all work and no play makes Michael a dull boy. People who are poor want to be rich. People who are rich want to be powerful. People who are powerful want to be elected. Do you have
what it takes to be Canada's time-shift trivia champion? Well, you gotta be in it to win it. Shift with us as we cross 4 time zones with 4 different shows every Friday night right here on Global. So, are you Canada's 2008 time-shift trivia champion? Late Night Poker is brought to you by FullTiltPoker.net. Full Tilt Poker, where you can learn, chat, and play with the pros. If you're looking to play poker in one of the best tournaments in Canada, rated as one of the top 10 in the world, then you need a chip and a chair to this. The Full Tilt Poker Montreal Open for the Miriam Foundation. Broadcast right here on Rogers Sportsnet. Well, the tables are full. Players have traveled from across Canada to play and meet some of the world's best international poker celebrities. So to all those armchair poker pros, sit back and play a couple of hands with us at the Montreal Open. The Full Tilt Poker Montreal Open on Rogers Sportsnet is brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. Full Tilt Poker, where you can learn, chat, and play with the pros. And by Solid Pay. Solid Pay. Payments made easy. You pay, we play. Solid Pay. The Full Tilt Poker Canada Cup is brought to you by The Score. The Score, the home for the hardcore. And by Full Tilt Poker. Full Tilt Poker, where you can learn, chat, and play with the pros. Stay tuned as we deal up more Full Tilt Poker action right after this. The game of poker is alive and well in the city of Montreal. Today, the fans of the game come together once again to celebrate the phenomena of Texas Hold'em. From Montreal to Las Vegas, the images of poker continue to entice and attract players who wish to test their talents, press their luck, and hide their tells in a legendary tournament card game based on skill. It's No Limit Texas Hold'em Poker. Texas Hold'em is a game that has potential for great rewards and devastating, unforgivable defeats. A game that also gives back to the community in raising money for a worthy charity. Rogers Sportsnet is pleased to present the inaugural UB.net Starlight Foundation No Limit Texas Hold'em Poker Tournament. Now here's your host, Tina Taggart. The UB.net Starlight Poker Tournament is brought to you by UB.net. UB.net, raise, stack, and own. And by Rogers Sportsnet.
There was a bright-eyed boy named Cole who had lots of heart and soul. With the animals he spends the day, so come with us to sing and play. He has the coolest wheels in town. You'll see him zipping all around in
You see? There's plenty of room.
I don't want to play with him.
And I refuse to play with him.
But why?
Because he's different. Look at that brute. He looks nothing like me.
Just listen to the fluffy poodle. He doesn't sound like me.
That is because I am a French poodle.
And I'm a British bulldog.
Bonjour, mon ami.
How are you, my friend? We're dogs of a different name.
Bonjour, mon ami.
How are you, my friend?
But we are still dogs just the same. You say roof.
And you say oof.
And sometimes I say woof.
But may I say oof?
And I say roof.
So let's just call the whole thing off.
Oh no, oh you, hold on a minute. I'm gonna try something here, something very difficult. It's called Française. Bonjour mon ami.
How are you, my friend?
We may sing a different song. Bonjour mon ami.
How are you, my friend?
But we can still all get along.
Hi there.
Hello. Officer Hank on patrol, of course. What can I do you for?
We're looking for animals that do good deeds.
Yep, that's me. To serve and protect. That's my job's main affairs. To help the police officers as they do theirs.
Helping the police. Sounds exciting.
Never a dull moment.
What kind of things do you do?
Well, let me see now. We help the officers keep the neighborhood safe for everybody. But one of my favorite things about being a mounted police horse, riding in the parade. Yeehaw! I love a parade.
I love a parade, too.
Wow! Thanks for telling us about the good deeds you do, Hank. It sure is inspiring. We should let you get back to work, though.
Back in the saddle again. Nice to meet you, Hank.
The pleasure was mine.
This doesn't mean that you need to go public and offer stocks on the stock exchange. That takes a lot of time and money. And if your sales are less than $5 million a year, forget it. Of course, good breeding and bloodlines and that elusive lady luck all come into play.
And our Michael Charbon had a chance to speak with him.
The Islington Golf Course was established in 1923, and it was designed by a Torontonian, Mr. Stanley Thompson. And his crew is trying to put the rat back in the cars. I'm Michael Charbon. You're watching Talk Local. We'll be back with more right after this.